What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Primarch Purpose. This is a series in which I look at each individual Primarch in reverse Legion order, giving my thoughts and ideas on what perhaps the ultimate endgame goal for the Primarch project might have been for each Primarch. The Emperor did the Primarch project with a goal in mind. That has to be sure because it's such an intensive project. The Emperor is very goal-oriented and endgame, long-term oriented type of fellow, you could say. And for such an intensive project, you don't do it willy-nilly. You have a plan in mind. So we never get to see that come to fruition, however, because of the Horus Heresy. Primarchs have died, Primarchs went traitor, he gets interred in the Golden Throne. Stuff happens. So for this series, what I do, as you've seen for the Primarchs thus far, is I give a bit of a what-if setting for us to look at the Primarchs in. Because it's fun to do that, and then we get to potentially speculate, or I should say speculate potentially, on their ultimate purpose. And some Primarchs are easier than others. Some Primarchs we get to see their purpose more so clearly in the actual fluff. But regardless, the what if setting is simply this: the Emperor is alive and well, leading an imperial truth-driven Imperium following a successful Great Crusade. This does not mean humanity is on every single planet in the galaxy. It just means the Crusade, which was coming to an end anyway when the heresy happened, concludes successfully. There is no heresy. All of the Primarchs are alive and loyal and leading their legions still. No chapters, so still have legions with the Primarchs, all alive and loyal to the Emperor. And as a result, that means the Imperium is structured a bit differently. With the Imperial Truth, there's no need for the Ecclesiarchy or its armed forces. With the Inquisition, being a product of the heresy, there's no need for it or its forces either. They don't exist as we understand it in this setting. Legions fulfill that role, basically. But anyways, so that's the changes to the Imperium proper. No Ecclesiarchy or its forces, no Inquisition or its forces. This means we don't have Chaos Space Marines really at all. Instead, we still have Traitor Guard, we still have Chaos Demons, Insurrectionists, Dark Mechanicum. We still have the Xenos threats that we know of and all that jazz. So that is the setting. Some basic changes, but I know they're pretty substantial, but it's not like we are changing absolutely everything in the fabric of the setting. Just few key things. And it's in this setting that we're going to be checking out the 3rd Legion's Primarch now. This is the second to last Legion to talk about, in terms of Primarchs, obviously. And it's also the last of the Traitor Primarchs to talk about. This is, of course, Fulgrim, a devotee of Slaanesh. And for this what-if setting, he's loyal to the Emperor still. Now, the thing about Traitor Primarchs is that they were written from the beginning to be Traitor Primarchs. And even though we get more fluff on them, more stuff fleshed out for them over time, on their when they were still loyal and everything, it still all has to meander back to them being a traitor. So all we're really getting is further reinforcement of how they are and why they are a traitor. So talk about all the rest. The last one I'll talk about is Fulgrim. Super vain, obviously, a little bit obsessed, very much excess driven and all that, being the demon Primarch of Slaanesh will do that to you. And like several or a lot of the Primarchs, I guess that weren't traitor, he was corrupted by the Chaos God, well, in this case Slaanesh, to do so. The Iron Blade is what corrupted him. But despite all of that, and his seeking perfection getting twisted to be something in regards to excess and all that, we can still look at him and even his Legion a bit and see what the purpose might be for Fulgrim himself. Why have such a vain, obsessive Primarch like Fulgrim? Like, what would his purpose be? It seems almost like he is just that stereotypical rich kid with all the resources to do bad, so that's why he's into the drugs and all that jazz and everything else. Fulgrim seems that way, with his pretty boy persona and everything as well. But on top of that, aside from having all the stereotypical pretty boy perfectionist persona stuff, he really does have a purpose outside of just being the traitor Primarch of Slaanesh. So, with that said, we have to understand a couple of things. His legion, when he was reunited with them, or I should say united with them for the first time, he wasn't really reunited. He was reunited with his father, though. They were only roughly 2 companies strong, around 200 Astartes or so strong. This is because he learned to his horror, Fulgrim learned to his horror, a terrible accident destroyed virtually all of the gene seed for his legion. And it was a very slow process and laborious process to replace it without their Primarchs, so they were very small in number. And with the Emperor present, Fulgrim addressed his 200 or so Astartes in a speech that was so inspiring for the Imperial cause that the Emperor himself, then and there, named the Third Legion the Emperor's Children Legion, and determined that only they would be able to wear the Imperial Aquila, the Imperial Double-Headed Eagle, which is his own personal badge on their armor. No legion was allowed to do this. It was a honor given to certain characters in certain legions, but outside of Primarchs and the Custodian Guard, you didn't have that symbol worn by any Astartes. It was the sole unique honor of the Emperor's Children Legion to be given the ability to wear that. So that badge and their name was given to them by the Emperor because of Fulgrim's passionate speech to his legion. Now, with that said, Fulgrim then was consumed with the idea that because they were given this extraordinary singular honor by the Emperor, that they had to become the beacons of perfection and paragons of the imperial culture and civilization, imperial truth, to live up to that honor. And this is where that drive comes from that would ultimately lead to his downfall once he got corrupted by the Layer and Blade. But he doesn't get the Layer and Blade in this What If. He just purges the planet, leaves the blade alone, or is assisted, whatever. It doesn't matter why. What matters is, what's his purpose now that he's going to be loyal in this What If setting? Well, in a way, and it's kind of funny, because he's the devotee of Slaanesh, he's going to basically take over the role of the Ordo Hereticus in a way. He's going to be the Primarch, and therefore his legion are going to be the forces instrumental in really keeping the Imperial truth solid in the Imperium. Meaning, any breakaway faction that decides to break away from the Imperial truth, try to worship anything, the Emperor, Primarchs, anybody, even himself, are going to be met with cleansing fire and blades. Fulgrim is going to be that paragon of the Imperial truth. That pretty boy paragon of the Imperial truth, right? If Sanguinus is kind of the pretty boy poster child, heir apparent of the Imperium at large, and Guilliman is the warrior king, tactician, Rogaldorn's the Praetorian of Terra and all that, and Horus was the War Master and tends to be kind of viewed above his brothers even after the Crusaders ended. Fulgrim is going to be what is thought of. Him and his legion will be what is thought of when the Imperium is thought of just as a civilization in the Imperial truth. That is what I feel Fulgrim's purpose would have been. Because he throws himself, consumes himself and his legion with being everything the Imperium stands for in a way. Not just militaristically, but culturally. Art, music, civilization in general, driven to the drive for perfection, consuming him and his legion. The difference here is instead of it being this kind of dark, corrupting force, because the drive for perfection can take you to dark places and consume you and leave you just distraught and destroyed in a way, because perfection is unattainable. Fulgrim's drive for perfection is going to be tempered by the idea and the knowledge that perfection, as defined as it is, cannot be actually attained, but it's that drive to constantly better yourself that is the real fruit of your labor. And he's going to learn this from his brother Ferrus Manus. Remember, they're really close. Their friendship as brothers and everything is probably the closest, one of the closest of all the Primarchs, Sanguinus and Horus being the other one that's really close. Ferrus Manus is alive. Everybody's alive and loyal. Ferrus Manus, as we know, just really quick on him, is trying, after the crusade, well, there was no heresy, but after the crusade comes to a close, and what he was not able to do because of the heresy, is to heal his legion, to keep them from being so driven to become more machine than human, and kind of have that temperance there, and that understanding, the knowledge. Because in a way, while very different and not seeking perfection, the drive is similar between the two Primarchs and their legions. So, in that knowledge and understanding, and that friendship of Fulgrim's able to get that temperance and that understanding that they seek perfection, but literally it's impossible to attain it. But in that drive to constantly better yourself, to go for it, which is important to do, and that it's unknowable to get it, is the important part. And this is going to temper Fulgrim from becoming twisted and dark with his drive for perfection, which is why he's able to keep himself and his legion being the beacons of the Imperial truth and the Imperial civilization, right? Him and his legion are going to be, still have vanity to them, still have pride in what they do. They're not going to be just kind of sterile beacons of perfection, or I shouldn't say perfection, of the Imperial truth's kind of truthiness, if you will. He's still going to do his typical vain things, such as Fulgrim having the victory feast before the campaign even starts, and always flying in and doing things in perfect formation, everything being textbook perfect and prim and proper in its place, and horribly vainglorious, ornate sculptures and stuff everywhere. But it all comes with the point that Fulgrim and his legion represent all of the good, you could say, all of the power of the Imperial civilization, its culture, its truth. And I think that is what Fulgrim ultimately is meant to be in the Primarch project, is to be that stereotypical pretty boy, marble features, perfect armor, ornate armor, perfect legion with their armor, in perfect parade formation with ornate pillars and ships ornate and intricate and gold laced and everything. Everything looking like you would expect some artist rendering, romanticizing the situation would do. Only they actually are that made manifest. And it's going to rub some legions the wrong way, some other Primarchs the wrong way, but Fulgrim doesn't care because Fulgrim was given the honor. Fulgrim didn't name his legion. The Emperor gifted them the name to be his children. The Emperor gifted them his Imperial Eagle. And he will be damned sure, you could say, to live up to that honor. So it's going to rub some things the wrong way. It might ruffle the feathers the sanguineous here and there as well, but it's all for the purpose of furthering the Imperial truth and securing it. So on top of doing traditional military campaigns, which every legion can do, for example, Magnus's legion will do traditional military campaigns, but also is responsible for the Imperial Webway security, you could say, with their arcane knowledge. Fulgrim and his legion will do traditional military campaigns, whether it's sieges, hit and run stuff against in a blockade or whatever the case might be, right? They seek to be the embodiment of all things Imperium. But on top of that, Fulgrim's going to be ever mindful and present, kind of like the Ordo Hereticus is in standard 40k fluff, for any type of corruption or degradation that could threaten the Imperium from within as well. The ecclesiarchy, like I mentioned, doesn't exist in the Imperial truth-driven Imperium, but that could be a fanatical, heretical, if you will, breakaway faction worshipping either the Primarchs, a singular Primarch, the Emperor, or something else. The idea of worship, period, being a problem. And Fulgrim will definitely root that out. Fulgrim will root out any type of insurrectionist cell as well. I'm not saying he's a spy or an investigator, right? In fact, that's more the Alpha Legion's role, despite doing their standard military campaigns as well. But Fulgrim will definitely prioritize that, and basically that would be his domain, and with assistance from other legions and assisting other legions as well. So it's not a harmonious relationship with all of his brothers. No, the Primarchs don't have to all get along. But in this scenario, the drive for Fulgrim's excess is instead his drive for embodying the righteousness, if you will, and the correctness of the Imperial truth and why the Imperium is great, basically, and seek to protect that, constantly striving for perfection. His Legion still having the vanity and the pride of being like, we're the best, look at us, ho ho ho, but having that temperance and that kind of wisdom to back it up a little bit and be just the beacon of the Imperium that Fulgrim was trying to be before his corruption. Anyways, that's my thoughts for what the purpose for Fulgrim might have been for him and his Legion if we ever got to see it. They would have still been purple armored with the golden ornateness and everything else, but they would have, all that ornateness, like I said, think of it this way. When you look at how stuff is described in 40K, and even outside of that, some type of Renaissance painting kind of setting up things, through the eye of somebody trying to show all that's good. So, obviously, there isn't golden towers and red plush carpets and marble pillars everywhere in the Imperium, but the representation of the Imperium's greatness, that would be what would be painted. It wouldn't be the slums, it wouldn't be the mediocrity, it would be all this ornateness, this awesomeness, the Imperial Palace, the Custodius, the golden, all that jazz. That is the Emperor's children made manifest, and they seek to uphold that idea and ensure Imperium superiority. Anyways, that's my thoughts on Fulgrim. Share your thoughts on what you think about him and his purpose might have been if we got to see it happen in the comment sections below. It's all just fun spitball conjecture. It's not hard fact, right? This is a what-if setting, looking at something in an alternate way. We know really what happens to Fulgrim, the demon Primarch that he is. Anyways, that's it. So thanks for sticking through it. One more Primarch left to talk about, and then the Primarch Purpose series for the Primarch Project, I should say, is basically done. I might do a wrap-up video. We'll see. Anyways, that's it. So until next time, take it easy.